Live now. Hello and welcome
Hello
to
there.
another Cerealboxd reviews. Uh, I am joined today by Carlos and Tino, familiar voices, not faces
Yeah.
really, but voices on the channel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Um, Today we're gonna talk about Moonrise Kingdom. Uh, and this is this is a Wes Anderson movie. It has Edward Norton in it, Bruce Willis,
Bill
uh,
Murray.
Harvey Keitel has a small role. Uh, and is there any other
What's
big stars in this?
what's her name?
I know who that
She's
is.
from Three Billboards.
Yeah,
Oh God, I feel so bad for forgetting. Let me look this up. She's a
yeah.
great actress.
And then this is okay. I gotta say this kind of bothers me. Because I was on the Wikipedia page of this movie not too long ago, and it always bothers me that so the two main characters they're like teenage like middle schoolers, and whenever there's like a child actors in the movie and they're like the main characters, they're never credited as like first, even though they're like the main characters.
Yeah, that's just a product of them not being A-listers. By the way, the
Yeah,
mother's played by Frances McDormand.
yeah,
Great actress.
yeah. I don't know. That's always bothered me in like movie credits. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I feel like it. Yeah, I understand why they do it. It's because so they can bill
Yeah,
people, but to get recognition in. But I feel like it's. I'd put them first because it's a good way to make names more
yeah.
recognizable.
Yeah.
And so this is like all Wes Anderson movies. There's a plot, but it's like there's so much series of events that happen. Uh, Pretty much this movie's about basic plot is there's a boy character, he's a scout, and he decides to run away, and he can't because he can't his parents just died and he can't really deal with it. He doesn't want to be at that camp, so he runs away. And then there's a girl character that runs away too from her parents because she has a shitty school life and has no friends. And but
Yeah.
they met each other at like a church play or whatever,
Yep.
Yeah.
and they kind of fell in love and they became pen pals. And
Hmm.
so what happens is they both run away, and then they end up meeting each other, and then the whole movie is just pretty much them trying to run away from like the scouts, their parents,
Yep.
whatever, and that's pretty much the movie.
Hmm.
Kind of an adventure movie, sort of like it's
Yeah,
actually
I'd say the general theme of the movie would be that like the kids are all acting like adults and the adults are acting like children. Throughout the
yeah,
whole movie, the
Yeah.
kids are like the two main characters are like, okay, we're gonna go run away, but like they run away, but like they're not reckless at all. They're like, okay, we know exactly. I've got like all these the boys got all these spelunking skills. The girl's got like her suitcase full of all the important stuff. And meanwhile, like the scout boys are looking for them, and they're like very coordinated. Meanwhile, you've got Bruce Willis and Tilda Swinton. They're all just screaming at each other. Just Bill Murray also is just like freaking out throughout the whole movie. They're just like screaming at each other and arguing and hitting each other. And like that's kind of just the general theme is that the kids are adults and the adults are kids.
now I would this is the interesting about Wes Anderson movies. Most people say his movies are comedies generally, but a lot of his movies I don't really categorize as like a comedy first. Like
I
this
call them
movie,
I
this
call them
movie,
highbrow comedies because there's a lot of humor in them, but there's nothing really childish about them
yeah.
or like
There,
goofy enough to really call them
this movie
comedy.
I would actually almost call like I would actually call this movie like a children's film almost.
Yeah,
It's,
there's some
Yeah.
adult themes, but it's hidden behind a lot of innocence.
yeah,
Hmm.
like this is a movie I could you could easily like show to like a kid and stuff, and they would
Yeah,
pick it
and
up.
they'd understand it too because it plays it in very simple terms. It trying to think of a point of reference. what it could be similar to. Not sure. It does kind of ring. It kind of reminds me somewhat of like those very early live action Disney films, your Parent Traps and
Yeah,
your Herbies
Yeah,
and stuff that like kids can watch, but they're very much enjoyable by adults. Like many of Wes Anderson's films, I find this movie to be very picturesque. It chooses a very cozy setting, this like New England
yeah,
island.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson has always had a penchant for creating settings that are very storybooky, but they can still be real, but they're fantastical enough that
yeah. This
they
movie like
feel
scenes are straight out like it's like cartoony.
yeah.
Like the lightning scene where he gets
Yeah.
struck. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the powers all of a sudden.
Mhm. That's what I've always loved about Wes Anderson. I haven't mentioned it so far in the stream, but I am a very big Wes Anderson fan. I've called him my favorite director for the longest time. That was until I started watching David Lynch movies. But I always just found his movies very not compelling. There's some of his movies that are very compelling. Others are just very nice, but there's never been one I've really disliked at all.
I I like I love I like Wes Anderson. I like most of his movies. There's a couple I would actually say I think are kind of like I consider me on the mediocre side, but
Oh.
I yeah, I have a kind of a different like take on it. Like when I was like let's say I'm kind of like middle school sort of, because that's when I started getting really deep into film. I actually straight out didn't like most of his movies at first because I just didn't like. I wouldn't say I didn't get it, but I just didn't like his movies. Kind of run me. I don't know. It was weird.
Mhm.
But until I got older, I appreciated them more. But I mean I think he's a really good director. Like actually I would say one of the best like current
Yeah.
directors.
And the cinematographers he works with are very great.
Yeah.
I think his name is Robert Yeoman. I don't know if he's worked on all of them, but he's worked on most of them.
But I think the weak part, of West End, I figured it out recently. What I think is like kind of weakness. I think is not really storytelling, but his like writing. He
Mhm.
doesn't have. He doesn't really have like a strong like I don't know. I feel like if his movies had like a more like I don't know, someone who's better writing dialogue and stuff, I feel like
Yeah.
would be better movies, I think. I don't know.
I'll be the first to admit that his style of dialogue is very mumblecore.
Yeah.
It's
really
very much
dead.
the dialogue is very much carried by the actors that he hires. Like if you take like the dialogue from something like what's it called? Forgetting this. The Darjeeling Limited, like it probably wouldn't hold up well if you didn't have people like
right. Well, that and Isle of Dogs I haven't seen. Those are only two I haven't seen.
Well, yeah, and Isle of Dogs too, and stuff like that, and like Rushmore, where you have like this very minimalist, mumbly dialogue that probably wouldn't, work if you didn't have people like Bill Murray and Owen Wilson and Jason Schwartzman, who are very good at like I don't know, making the bringing an aesthetic quality to the mumbliness. And yeah, I wouldn't say dialogue is a strong point. There's very few. I can't like. There's jokes that I can quote, but like, and there's not any like sort of poignant lines that I can bring up for most of his movies.
Yeah, this this is actually my favorite Wes Anderson movie. And yeah, I like this movie quite a bit. When I first sat down and watched it, I think it was like when I was like 15, 16.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember. Or 17, I don't remember. It was in like the middle of high school, but I sat down and watched this movie because I always heard about it over the years and stuff, and I decided like like oh I'm just gonna give it a chance or whatever. I didn't expect to like I was kind of expecting either it was gonna be good or like just okay or whatever. I didn't expect much, but I ended up actually like really liking it.
Hmm.
Like and which doesn't happen often with a lot of movies I watch.
Yeah,
And so yeah, this is yeah, probably like this is one of my favorite movies for like the last 10 years to come out.
yeah.
And
I went into this movie with a lot of good faith because I enjoyed Fantastic Mr. Fox that I saw when I was in like maybe 14 or something, and then I saw Grand Budapest Hotel right when it became available for home media because yeah, I just it was one of the best picture nominations, and also I just watched it on good faith because it was by the guy who directed Fantastic Mr. Fox, and then this was on Netflix, and I watched it in good faith, thinking I'd probably enjoy it, and yeah, I really did. I really love the picturesque quality of the movie. Um, I just find the whole relationship between the two kids to be very endearing. Uh, yeah,
I
I
love the
love that
character
you
in
get
this
a
movie.
really good it's a very different kind of movie for Bruce Willis to be in.
Yeah,
Rather get like really shitty action movies and yeah, or like some animated comedy with his voice shoehorned in. Most of the budget goes to. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Over the Hedge.
good classic movie.
After we're done with this, I'm
A
gonna go on
classic.
Letterboxd and see what people think about Over the Hedge.
Over the Hedge, the Criterion Collection. I just picture like
It's just a painting of the hedge with maybe like a silhouette of the bear or something.
the menu. You know, Criterion's always have the weird menus, the artsy menus. It'll just be of like something of like it'll just be of the hedge, just
It
quiet
should just be
shot of the hedge. That'll be the menu.
it should just be an artsier version of the because I remember the DVD for that movie was like I don't know the fucking vending machine is like DreamWorks used to have those interactive menus. It should be like an artsier version of that. This time it's like cream colored, watercolored 2D animation.
But back to, do you own this movie on Criterion? Do they have it? Well, yeah, they've released all those movies. But do you own
The
this
only
one?
the only Wests I have on Criterion are Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic. I both happened to pick them up at various thrift stores.
I actually saw Roll of Tenenbaums in a thrift store on Criterion today, but I didn't pick it up because it was like, I mean, it was DVD, but I'm actually not a fan of that movie. I think
I
it's
love it.
I think it's a good movie, but I'm not. I don't know. It's not.
It was really nice of Wes Anderson to collaborate with the writers of the Sis Loves Me Studios to create such a wonderful stepsister romance film. But anyway,
Yeah. But what do I have to say about this movie? Yeah. Yeah. This is one of my favorite. How would I say? My favorite like looking movies. I don't know how to say it. Like I
favorite what
just
movie?
look. No, one of my favorite like shot movies. Like the
Ah,
look. I don't know. Like and and he always has great like he's a great director in general.
yeah,
But like
yeah.
he
Every movie he seems to do, Robert Yeoman just seems to make more like um makes every single frame look even more and more picturesque. And you haven't seen Isle of Dogs yet, but I very much recommend it because it is just like the peak of just every frame looking like a painting, like the YouTube channel. But
yeah.
this is later in Wes's career, so this is where he's really gone on the deep end of sort of the picturesque look. It really started with like Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I feel like working on an animated movie really dictated his his use of this style. I think he got that started with Life Aquatic because there was a lot of use of like miniatures and Henry Selick animation, and I think he really elaborated on that by going full on animation with Mr. Fox, and with this movie making a very picturesque. It's almost like an animated movie come to life, which I think is very
Yeah,
pretty.
What I liked about Wes Anderson, this movie in particular, well, the story of this movie, it feels like a children's book,
Hmm.
sort of, and it reminds me of like a Roald Dahl story, sort of. That's what it kind of reminds me. That's a lot of Wes Anderson
That is a very
stories.
apt comparison. Roald Dahl.
Well, didn't he do Fantastic Mr. Fox? Or I'm thinking of
Yep.
someone else.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's probably the influence I see.
yeah, and the what his the visual style it kind of reminds me of like a lot of like old children's, well, a lot of movies are like old like children's books almost. I don't know how to describe it, like stuff you'd see from like the 50s and like 60s.
Yeah.
I remember having a lot of those books that kind of looked
Well, I
like
think they
that.
bring an homage to that because Susie has a whole collection of
Yeah.
those kind of books. Actually,
um
have this really nice hardcover book called the Wes Anderson Collection. It's just great. It goes all the way up to Moonrise Kingdom, and then I think they've made their own books for Isle of Dogs and Grand Budapest since then. But let me see if I can find some information on those books that they used because they came up with them. But yeah, they made like a big homage to those very those like 60s kids books where they
yeah.
it's like where they started to really because I think it was around that time that they started to actually believe that children could actually be smart and read, so they actually made more long form books for them because I think just the average IQ of children just went up around that time, so they made these sort of more long form kids books.
One of my favorite scene in this movie is uh, I don't remember Susie's full line of like dialogue, what she says, but they're talking to each other, and well, Sam and Susie, and she's talking about how she relates to like she always relates to orphan characters in books
Mhm.
and stuff. She kind of goes on and on, and Susie's kind of like she's an art hoe, pretty much.
Yeah,
And
but
then
it's like
she starts talking about like how she releases characters and stuff. And then Sam says, "I don't know what you're talking about, but I love you."
I love you, but you don't know what you're talking about, which I think is that's a very poignant thing to say about people who really
Yeah.
romanticize more marginalized or not. I guess are orphans marginalized or little children who are put through an extensive abusive government system marginalized. I don't know, but yeah, it's just like I really relate. I think you guys live a more beautiful life. I love you, but you do not know what you're talking about. Great line.
um. Now Carlos here. I don't know if you've seen any Wes Anderson movies. Have you seen Fantastic Mr.
Uh,
Fox?
I have, yeah,
Okay, I get it.
like
Yeah,
a long time ago.
yeah. I only watched that like a couple of years ago, but
Yeah.
Uh, would you like? So I guess so. Which these are very different movies. 'Cause, well, one's live action, one's stop motion,
I think I
um,
got it.
but they do
Uh,
have. Can you see how like they're kind of like the same style, sort of
uh,
like
yeah, I see. Have similar styles. I mean, um, kind of to be honest, this is kind of like my kind of like first Wes Anderson film because I haven't like let's be real. I'm very uncultured. I've not seen like
yeah,
any kind of this movie and this movie because I don't know. I was raised like that, but like when Jay or Julian is teaching me all these like all these words and all these films, whatever. I do see a similar style between those two. Yeah, I do see same like kind of like style in the way with like I guess like the pictures, like the art style and whatever. But
I
yeah,
noticed that Wes
you
Anderson
guys,
likes using a lot of yellow and brown in his movies.
Mhm.
And
yeah,
he always has shots of like people. He always has shots where people are like writing a letter. I think that's
Yeah.
in every single movie. uh, yeah, but so what? Uh, what?
No, I'm just thinking of the scene from Rushmore where the kid writes the letter. It's just like, I
Uh,
suspected it when they were holding hands on the porch. I was even further suspected when I saw them giving each other hand jobs in the pool.
I
Yeah,
that's my
Rushmore has a lot of references to hand
that's my
jobs.
second favorite Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah,
Is
I
Rushmore.
watched that movie in 2016. I was just like, oh my god, he's exactly like me.
I knew so many kids like. Well, we're not to get on tangent about Rushmore, but I knew so many kids like that in high school.
I knew a lot of kids like that, and I was kind of like that because I also because the movie takes place at a Catholic school, and I went to a Catholic school very much like Rushmore, just with half of with like a third of the school budget. Like I went to an independent high school, but it took itself really seriously. Like we called him headmaster and everything, but it was very similar. Yeah.
Oh, what did you think? Before I forget, what did you your favorite actor was in this movie? I think it was one of his first movies. Lucas Hedges.
I was about to bring up Lucas Hedges. Yeah, I was about to say like this movie. I love this movie, but I hate it because it brought the blight of Lucas Hedges upon us, the poster boy of A24. God,
he
of
it's
all the
weird.
kid actors, there's so many good kid actors that A24 could have swept up and used in their movies, but no, they had to get Lucas fucking Hedges. He wasn't even the main character of this movie. Were none of the other kids suitable? They were all pretty fucking.
I thought the two main ones were actually I thought the two main ones were the best actors in the whole movie.
This movie has some of the best child actors in
Yeah.
recent memory, like very good. And I think it's because he doesn't push them to their limits. He lets them be kids.
Yeah.
Because I think there's that thesis that the kids are like adults, but that the thing is, in real life, kids are much more mature than Hollywood gets them credit for.
Mhm.
That line can be really taken out of context. But
Brian Singer.
But yeah, like kids are very serious. I know people who talked like this when they were kids. Kind of like me too.
Yeah, I did too.
What one I think it also one thing it does remind me of is the way Calvin is written in Calvin and Hobbes. This kid who like is very verbose but mischievous. That's kind of how a lot of the kids are written in this movie. Just like yeah, Wes Anderson gives kids a lot more credit than most people do, and that's what I love about this movie. It's a movie that it's like one of those kids are all right movies where it's just like listen to the fucking children.
Yeah,
Because that's
this is what I hear about most Hollywood movies. If they do kids, either they have the smart kid that talks so calculated, like, well, did you know that da 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 gives like
a
spews out
fucking kid from
scientific
Signs
facts.
or something, like little mini
Yeah.
Morpheus or something.
Or there's the other one, the snarky kid that says stuff that like no snarky kid would even say. Like make like really obvious references, like, oh, you haven't seen Pulp Fiction? It's like, oh, stuff like that, like just bad. You know what I'm talking about? Like, even Juno did stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like just bad. Like in this movie, the kids they talk like actual kids.
Like, they talk like kids who want to be adults. Like the kids the scout troopers, they coordinate themselves. Like so, that's one of my favorite oddities of this movie is just how seriously the whole scout trooper system is taken. Like the adult, like they've got these camps set up, and like they got senior members, and they go to a bigger camp, and there's an older dude there who's just like, "You are stripped of your title," and like. But like they point out the fact that like these guys do have day jobs still. Like Edward Norton is a math teacher, though his side job is math teacher. He's a full-time scout leader.
My only complaint about this movie, well, not really a complaint because it doesn't bother me, but I think could have got cut out in the movie is the narrator part.
Yeah, he seemed to just like
he's just there, like you don't really need him in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, and like it was weird, and he kind of like crosses the threshold of diegesis by like he's just kind of talking to the audience the whole time, and then suddenly he's talking to the characters, like he's just some kind of weird oracle. Like yeah, his dialogue wasn't really needed. He doesn't really provide any insight to anything.
Yeah.
Like he just kind of explains what this island is like. And
What was the island called again?
Hmm?
What was the island called again?
I don't know, but I think it's somewhere in New England.
But you know how the movie should begin with the narrator? It should have begun where he's like, "Let me tell you something. This island is the greatest fucking island there is." And then
I'm renting Gotti. I'm renting Gotti, and we're gonna talk about it sometime.
I already reviewed it the other day.
Ah, shit. Fuck.
But
Well, you and I are just gonna talk about it personally.
we can talk about it. We can talk about it again. But,
We're gonna make Gotti 2.
yeah, that's a masterpiece of cinema.
I have seen that clip where like Gotti gets out of prison and everyone's cheering for him, and I'm just like, God, people will cheer for a fucking mobster, but if a hip hop artist goes to jail, they'll be like, yeah, lock him up. But anyway,
That's in the Moonrise Kingdom. It should have ended where he's talking to the camera and he's like, "These kids here, you never see these kids ever again, even if you live to be 5,000 years old." And then Pitbull starts playing.
these kids, greatest fucking kids in the world. Let me tell you something. Scientology is the greatest fucking religion on the earth.
Moonrise Kingdom, the greatest fucking kingdom there is. Even though, where does that name come from? Like, it doesn't. I don't think they ever say Moonrise Kingdom ever in the movie.
Moonrise
they?
Kingdom is the name of the little beach that they go to.
Doesn't Wes Anderson like come up with the name of his movies before he writes them?
I don't know. It's an interesting
serious.
fact.
It's like I thought I heard that, and because you know what's funny, a long time ago, that's what I thought to myself. It's like, how come like his titles are like always like that? Like it's like, does he just
His
come up,
movies
he
are
has to
very
come up with the title before he writes them?
The
Like,
titles of his
cool,
movies very.
dumb
Yeah,
title.
that is a good point because the titles of his movies are sort of like thesis statements almost.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say all of his movies, but it's just like the Grand Budapest Hotel, okay, and then he just writes it around the hotel.
Much more.
The-
Bottle Rocket. You know Bottle Rocket. What the fuck?
He
I
probably
don't
like.
Why does
I don't-
it
yeah, I
called
don't even
Bottle
know.
Rocket?
I don't
You
even.
know?
Well, I'd probably make the exception for that because that just started out as like one of a short film he made, and then he made
Yeah,
it.
but do you know why it's called Bottle Rocket? I was always confused.
No idea.
Yeah,
I like Bottle Rocket, by the way.
I like that name. I actually like the name of the movie. But yeah, anyways, Carlos, what did you?
Yes.
Since we were talking about Wes Anderson, and you're probably like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? What do you
I've been very
think of
interested.
Moonrise Kingdom?
What's that?
What did you say?
What's that?
What are your thoughts on Moonrise Kingdom?
It was alright. It was pretty cool.
Let me tell you something. Moonrise Kingdom, greatest fucking movie on earth. I really loved it. I really
Yeah,
loved
it's
this
pretty
movie. I
good.
come back to it all the time.
know
I want to touch on the music just one quick second.
I
Most
like
of the music is just taken from like old records. A lot of the music. Wes Anderson is very well known for like the soundtracks he accumulates. It's usually stuff like Rolling Stones and the Kinks and stuff like that. But there's always movies that make an exception. This is one of them. He does use other music, but a lot of it is from kids' records. Like the opening is this sort of educational classical record that teaches the kid that like taught kids how orchestras were brought together by like Benjamin Britten, and he brings back Benjamin Britten a lot. And then he has like these Disney records like not Davy Crockett. I don't know, some Burl Ives song about or Hank Williams, I don't know, some song about an Indian that was probably made for kids. And then there's a great score by Alexandre Desplat, who Wes Anderson's been using for the longest time, ever since Mark Mothersbaugh stopped making music with him. I don't know why he stopped doing that. But and then on the sound, what's really cool is on the soundtrack, the last track on the soundtrack for this does the thing with the Benjamin Britten thing where they deconstruct the orchestra piece, but they deconstruct original music from the Alexandre Desplat score, which I thought was really cool. And I also really love that little piece that they played at the very end of these like songs from a Saturday afternoon. It's just this really pretty little children's choir piece. That's like my favorite part of this movie is the ending because that music is really nice.
Mhm.
Just the nice little ending where they're hanging out and parents are like, "Hey, time to dinner," and they're like, and it's just really nice. It's like, yeah, it's just like a really nice ending, very
It's a
sweet
cute-
ending.
it's a
It's just
cute
like,
film.
yeah, our parents don't want us to be together, so we might as well just hang out in secret until we're old enough. You know, it's like one of my favorite songs. Wouldn't it be nice by the Beach Boys? Let me tell you something. The Beach Boys, greatest fucking band on earth.
Gotti.
So yeah, I really like Moonrise Kingdom.
Um,
I'd give it a 8 out of 10.
I'll give it a 10 out of 10.
Oh,
Yeah, I really like this movie a lot. Like, I'm not. I am. I still really like this movie. When the first few times I saw it, like, I almost actually got a little tear in my eye.
yep. I find the ending very emotional. That the piece of music is very, very nice.
But not really in a sad way, but like, ah.
Yeah, it's just like it's so pretty. It's such a nice, pretty
Yeah.
ending.
What would you give it, Carlos?
I give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
I'm changing my score to 12 out of 10. Yeah, take that, fuckers.
I love Moonrise Kingdom. 6 out of 10. You know about that meme? The Adam from your movie sucks or whatever.
Yeah.
People make fun of him because he always like praises the movie and he's like 6 out of 10.
I was gonna make a joke about how like I was gonna like a parody of his movie, of his review style where he doesn't like this movie, but he actually put this on like his best of list for 2012. So I can't, but I'm still gonna do it anyway. So I just saw Moonrise Kingdom and it was kind of bad. There was some stuff I liked about this movie, a lot of stuff I didn't, more stuff that I didn't. I found the child actors to be like really bad. Like, come on, you're children. Can't you figure out how to be fucking Laurence Olivier already? God, I found a lot of the character decisions to be like very unrealistic, and there was a lot of model work, and it didn't look real. So I'd give this one a 4 out of 10, or maybe a 5. I don't know.
Any other thoughts, Carlos? Do you have any other thoughts on this movie?
No, not really.
Carlos is like the James Rolfe Cerealboxd.
Yeah, he's been the James. This is like the Detective Pikachu of Cerealboxd reviews, where we got 2 Wes Anderson experts, and Carlos is just kind of sadly sitting in the middle, even though his icon is at the farthest left on the screen. I don't know what it looks like for everyone else. I don't think the HUD works like that for everyone else. But anyway. One mild defense of YMS's review style, or not review style, scoring style. He is Canadian, and I also defend British people who say this. I think a lot of Americans see a 6 out of 10 score and they're like, "Oh, it's because we have a really shitty grading system in school, where like anything under a 7 is like a failure." Meanwhile, everyone else has a much more lenient grading system.
So Fantano's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies, he gave it a great review then.
Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's just got like the school teacher or like the American student mentality when they see 6 out of 10. But anyway.
Do I have anything else to say about this movie? Watch it. I don't care who you are. I think actually this is a really hard movie to hate.
It's so nice.
Even compared to like a lot of other Wes Anderson movies. Like this is probably one of his more accessible. I think Rushmore's is most accessible movie, but second.
Yeah, Rushmore is a pretty accessible movie because it doesn't exactly have his very weird style yet. Because it's only a second movie.
Oh yeah, I have to talk about what which I should review, or whoever should review next week. I was thinking about, me and Carlos were talking about after we got done, because we just got done watching the movie before this podcast. We were going to talk about, we were thinking about reviewing the Brendan Fraser Mummy trilogy.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think that'll be the next one. You can join that one.
I'd have to watch them because I've only seen the first one a million years ago.
Yeah. So,
I remember the cartoon show as a kid.
Oh
Kid-
yeah.
oh
Kids
yeah, I
WB.
remember.
There were so many shows on Kids WB. I need to rewatch X-Men Evolution. That was a good show.
But yeah, because I just rewatched the scene, the Scorpion King, when in the Mummy Returns, the CGI scene, and when the Rock CGI PS2 Rock is towering over.
From Here Comes the Pain.
Yeah, it's just the 3D model from Here Comes the Pain. When he's hovering, he's towering over Brendan Fraser. Some random guy comes out into frame and then yells, running into frame and yells, "No!"
Well, I definitely need to rewatch the first one because like it's just got like a really nice Indiana Jones vibe. And the contemporary reviews for it seem to say as much. Like, yeah, this movie's pretty good, still holds up. CG doesn't, but still.
The Scorpion King. Oh, I also want to talk. Well, I'll do that for another podcast. But maybe split it like into 3 parts. One would be the Mummy trilogy. One would be the Scorpion King trilogy. The one I have to talk about the Tom Cruise Mummy.
Oh my God,
remember the Dark Universe?
We still need Ansel Elgort as the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And then, God, who would play if they ever bring the Phantom of the Opera? Who should play him? They should just get Gerard Butler to play him again, and have him sing, and he'll be the only one in the movie that sings.
I think it would
not even like the opera singers.
It would probably be like Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just think the most baffling casting decision ever would be casting Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Because if you're really, we're gonna cast an actor who's very versatile because he's got to play an actor with split personalities. Let's get literally balsa wood made flesh, known as Russell Crowe. I'm currently on the laborious task of rewatching and analyzing the 2012 Les Miserables movie, and I'm planning on making like an hour-long Lindsay Ellis style rant video about it. So you guys better keep your eye out for that because I've got so much to say about it. I was an avid defender of it when I first saw it in 2012, but now I'm just like rewatching it. I'm like, holy shit! There's not a single shot in this movie that means anything. But yeah, Russell Crowe is bad. He's not that great of an actor. He's mumbled his way through his career.
Yeah. I guess I'll wrap up this video.
That's what's coming next on Cerealboxd Reviews.
Next week, the gang will review the Mummy trilogy.
Thank you for watching. I've been Tino.
All right.
Carlos has been Carlos, and Julian's been Julian.
Good night, whatever.
Good night.
Stop broadcast.
Good night, everybody.